Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. A lot of star power taking to the ice in Brampton tonight, including some former and current Toronto Maple Leafs. Hockey Night in Brampton is back for another year, the charity game raising funds for a new hospital in the city. Anam Khan joins us live from the CAA Centre in Brampton. And Anam, over $1 million was raised last year. Organizers hoping to surpass that this year.
Right, so Kelda, they were very confident about surpassing that number. And honestly, when I heard the number this year, my jaw dropped. It was $14 million. And a large part of that is a corporate donation, but honestly, a lot of that is just the people of Brampton donating. They were able to surpass their numbers as well. And it's just star power that really brings people here, right? And I can confidently say a lot of the people here tonight were here for Mitch Marner. Take a look. Okay, who made this sign?
Me, and I do want to see Mitch Marner. I do want to see how he plays too, and I'm here to have fun a lot.
I'm a big Leaf fan, so I'm here for Mitch Marner, and I'm here for charity.
Ready with their Leafs jerseys, these fans lined up for hours at Brampton CAA Centre to see their hockey heroes at the game.
It feels great because we've been going for almost 5 months without hockey, so we really want to have a good hockey game and get into the groove.
But it's not just any hockey game. Hockey Night in Brampton is a major fundraiser for a new hospital in the city, bringing 4,000 people to the stands to see legends like Wendell Clark, Doug Gilmour, and Daryl Sittler, and current stars like Mitch Marner.
I think it stems from what glues us together as Canadians.
Taking place in person for the third time, organizers say the event has already helped raise $1.4 million for the Osler Foundation in years past, with $1 million going toward the new Peel Memorial Hospital and $4,000 toward cardiac care.
Year over year, it can make a huge difference. Buying equipment, supporting the infrastructure.
NHL, ex-NHL, PWHL, and even the local Brampton Steelheads facing each other on the ice.
Well, this is my first time coming.
NHL Hall of Fame defenseman Chris Pronger saying it's an honor to be here.
It'll be interesting to see how I do. I haven't skated in a long time, so this could be interesting for me personally.
It's an absolute privilege to be a part of it. It's amazing what our game can do, and when you bring people together, obviously a common goal of raising some funds, so it's great to see.
Mayor Patrick Brown joining the players on the ice.
Oh, I love it. I'm addicted to hockey, so I love playing with these guys.
He's the one who started the event 5 years ago.
We got to get the second hospital built. To be able to channel our love for hockey in Canada with building our second hospital in Brampton, for me, is just a magical evening.
You know, people are really hungry for the NHL before the season begins in the fall. And this is the perfect time to do this because this is when the players are available. And then organizers also tell me that events like this really keep the momentum going for fundraising for the rest of the year.
Thanks so much, Anam. Our Anam Khan live in Brampton tonight. A looming work stoppage is threatening to shut down rail traffic across Canada just after midnight. There are growing calls for the federal government to intervene, but the Prime Minister says it's up to the railways and the union to come to terms.
My message is very straightforward. It is in the best interest of both sides to continue doing the hard work at the table to find a negotiated resolution.
Both Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railways are on the brink of locking out more than 9,300 workers in total. The Teamsters Union, which represents the engineers, conductors, and yard workers, says safety issues and working conditions are the key sticking points in negotiations. The federal government has already rejected a call for binding arbitration. A rail shutdown would stop the shipment of about $1 billion a day worth of goods in the country. The potential job action will impact GTA commuters tomorrow, even if a last-minute agreement is reached. Metrolinx confirming tonight there will be no GO train service on the Milton line and at Hamilton GO station on Thursday. They say the decision was made to provide certainty to customers. We spoke to commuters at Union Station earlier.
I'm worried. I don't know. I hope they resolve it quickly. I hope they come to some kind of agreement.
I work from home 2 days a week. Maybe it'll be 4 days a week, which is always a bonus, of course. But at the same time, it is going to impact my work.
We'll just have to bear with one another and be respectful in the whole thing and help each other get from point A to B. But definitely, probably will be a little bit more crowded tomorrow. Yeah.
Service suspensions in Milton and Hamilton will impact around 1,800 daily riders. Metrolinx says those who use Hamilton Go can use West Harbour and Aldershot stations or take a GO bus along Route 16. And those who usually ride the Milton line can use the Lakeshore West or Kitchener lines instead. Residents in Toronto's Riverdale neighborhood are furious after finding out their homes are being expropriated for construction of the Ontario line. They say they were initially assured their properties would not be affected, and now their lives are being turned upside down. Talia Ricci has more.
I've lived here for 14 years. I get a knock on the door. We're taking your house. That's the last day I was happy.
Peggy Lung says the news that she's losing her home has been consuming her.
I can't eat, I can't sleep. People say, what's wrong with you? I'm sick to my stomach. I have a home daycare at that school. You can throw a dime. It's going to be affected. I do before and after school. It's done. It's over.
Her home is one of 25 properties on Pape Avenue between Langley and Riverdale Avenue required by Metrolinx for Ontario line construction. Among the properties is also a brand new daycare. Residents say they're distraught not just because they're being forced to relocate, but because this wasn't in the initial plan.
But over the last several years, Metrolinx has been stuffing letters in our mailboxes and talking to the owners of the homes, saying that this property is not going to be taken.
Because it's my home. We are planning to live there the rest of our lives, and now they are taking that, and my children are affected too. Yeah.
In a statement, Metrolinx says it now has a better understanding of local soil conditions and the impacts to properties that may result from tunneling. It says these properties are vulnerable to potential structural damage. Owners are compensated at fair market value for properties, and relocation specialists also work with tenants to find suitable relocation options.
It leaves me with the uncertainty, and it leaves me with all these things that I didn't plan to do.
Metrolinx says repairs will be made on the homes afterwards, and it will be looking at all options and discussing them with homeowners throughout the process. It did not confirm whether the agency will be reselling the properties, but that's what residents say they were told.
And if you want the old house, it's going to be much more because real estate historically increases, and they're not going to tear it down. I said, well, that's just stupid. Why don't you just give us money to live somewhere for 2 years?
Residents say at a recent meeting they asked about temporary relocation during the construction, but were told that wasn't an option. They were told they would have to vacate their homes by November next year. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police have arrested 4 people, including a 15 and 16-year-old, in connection with a series of shootings involving the tow truck industry, one of which turned fatal. Chris Clever has the details.
Toronto police here at headquarters announcing a crackdown on the ongoing tow truck turf war in the city. Police officers announcing 4 arrests today, and those people are facing 177 charges. Officers here, including the chief, saying that they have taken a bite out of this ongoing turf war in our city that has plagued the city really for a couple of years. And they say that these latest incidents that happened, that these 4 people are alleged to have taken part in, happened between May and July of this year. They involved 1 homicide and 13 tow truck related shootings. But officers really focused in on one shooting that happened on July 6th, and a 28-year-old man was shot and killed. The victim was identified as Sulakshan Selvasingham of Pickering. And on Monday, July 15th, 2 youth aged 15 and 16 were arrested and charged with first-degree murder in connection to his killing. And police are now alleging that those 2 are also responsible for 11 other shootings that took place between June 29th and July 14th. And police say that 8 of those shootings alone took place over the Canada Day long weekend. They called these two, what they were up to, a violent crime spree in the city of Toronto. And they say that now a 15-year-old boy from Oshawa and a 16-year-old boy from Stouffville, Ontario, face 154 charges just between the two of them. They include first-degree murder and several firearm offenses each. And really what police talked a lot about today was the exploitation of young people. They called it youths for hire, and they said that essentially older people are hiring these young people to commit these tow truck turf war crimes, these shootings that are taking place, leading to this violence. We heard more from Staff Superintendent Joseph Matthews about why these young people are targeted for this crime.
The motive behind using youths is likely because of the consequences they faced would be significantly different. It's also because they're able to entice them with smaller amounts of money to encourage them to do these violent acts. But yes, we definitely have seen that youths are being targeted to commit the actual acts that other people want done out on the streets.
And so police say that this is a part of a wider investigation into the ongoing turf war. They say that they're looking at least 2 companies involved in this, but there could be more that they're unaware of. And they say that this is a big problem in our city. The chief was saying that so far this year, there have been 43 tow truck shootings that have taken place. And the chief saying that 14% of all the shootings in Toronto are connected to the ongoing tow truck turf war. And we also heard from police that really getting their officers on the ground and arrests like this are only part of the solution. They're also really trying to focus in on the root causes of crime, what's diverting these kids into a life of crime. And we heard more from Staff Superintendent Kelly Skinner, who was talking about the ways in which police are working with community organizations like the United Way and a gang exit program to try to get kids away from a life of crime and into more productive avenues. Here's more from that Staff Superintendent.
We understand the impact of adverse childhood experiences on the development of our youth. Cycles of violence, negligence, poverty, and trauma often drive the damage that we as a police are often trying to prevent. We continue to work closely with community leaders, educators, and organizations to ensure that our young people have the support and resources they need to choose a different path.
Okay, and so now that community work is part of the work that the officers are doing here. They're also, as I was mentioning, doing a wider investigation that continues at this time into the ongoing tow truck turf war. And they're also looking into whether or not this turf war is a part of a wider criminal network or organized crime in the city of Toronto. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The Prime Minister says he's disgusted after more than 100 Jewish institutions across the country received bomb threats this morning. On social media, Justin Trudeau described the threats as, quote, blatant anti-Semitism. He added the RCMP and local law enforcement agencies are investigating. Jewish advocacy group B'nai B'rith Canada said the emails sent at 5 a.m. threatened explosions, including at their offices in Toronto and Montreal.
Several of us woke up to that email and immediately sprang into action as a Jewish advocacy organization. Unfortunately, this is something that you have to prepare for. Immediately contacted the authorities to ensure that any potential threat was mitigated. This could have, if this had been actuated upon, been a catastrophic event, not just for the Jewish community, but for the entire country.
Toronto police say buildings in the Bathurst and Shepherd area were evacuated and searched due to a bomb threat. In York Region, police say Jewish institutions there also received threats, though no specific locations were identified. We have an update on our top story from last night. The province has ordered a number of drug consumption sites near schools or daycares in the province to close. Others will not be allowed to open. And that's after 2 expert reports commissioned by the government recommended a Toronto site not be ordered closed. One even recommended it be expanded. Today, the Premier faced questions on the decision. Queen's Park reporter Lorena Redekop has the story.
The Ontario government's decision to close 10 supervised sites where people consume drugs came after it sought expert advice on one of the locations, the South Riverdale Community Health Centre. Caroline Hubner-Macarat was hit by a stray bullet outside the facility after a fight broke out by alleged drug dealers. One of those reports is by a supervisor appointed by the government. It calls consumption treatment services a necessary public health service implemented to save lives. The first recommendation is to expand harm reduction services, including consumption and treatment services, or CTS. The other report by Unity Health acknowledges issues around the site and recommends increased security. Neither recommended closing the safe consumption site. The Premier's response as to why he didn't follow the expert advice.
What they forgot to say is public consultation. And I was just wondering how you would feel if I stuck one of these beside your house. You wouldn't like it. Matter of fact, I know you wouldn't like it, neither would your neighbors and neither would anyone else. And all the kids, they shouldn't be by schools. They shouldn't be by daycares.
The government is closing facilities within 200 meters from schools and daycares, but it's also banning any new sites from opening. The Green Party is calling on the Premier and the Minister of Health to reverse the planned closures and properly invest in harm reduction. The NDP says this is about a government focused on ideology rather than evidence.
The government ignored all of this, said that they have the data and the evidence to show that those needs to be closed when they don't.
The government is focusing on treatment, adding 19 homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hubs. The opposition says supervised consumption is still needed.
Because the site closed does not mean that the person's dependency is gone. They will continue to use. They will continue to use in our parks, in our school, in our daycare parking lot. They will continue to use everywhere. We will continue to find way more needles and other paraphernalia used by people who use this drug everywhere on our street.
The safe consumption sites set for closure can apply to become new treatment hubs. It's unclear when the new treatment sites being planned by the government will open. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, St. Catharines.
Reaction to the decision to shut down the drug consumption sites continues to pour in today. Healthcare professionals and faith leaders are calling the move political and not rooted in the best health outcomes of vulnerable people. Dale Manukduk reports.
Eclectic Augusta Avenue in Kensington Market is home to one of 5 safe consumption sites in Toronto that is being forced to close by next March because they're within 200 meters of a school or childcare center.
The sites are where they need to be. They're where the community has need.
The Reverend at this nearby church is connected with several clients who use the service.
First of all, it has saved the lives of a lot of people, and that's the number one thing that it's there to do. It's also a space where people can connect to mental health treatment, where they can connect to addictions counseling and recovery resources.
The safe consumption sites are allowed to apply to become a homelessness and addiction recovery treatment hub, but will no longer be able to offer supervised injections, safe drug supply, or needle exchange.
People are going to die. People are going to die. We're going to see more public drug consumption. We're going to see people getting infected with HIV and hepatitis C at a time when rates have actually leveled off in this country. But we're going to see rates go back up because when you don't replace these needle and syringe programs, what do we have? We have treatment and hubs that you can actually do harm reduction work.
The province is investing over $370 million into these new treatment hubs, but health professionals say that's only part of the solution.
It's no secret that this government really has a preference for treatment over harm reduction, and that's something I think we were aware for some time. We know what we would like to see is the continuum, right? So we recognize not everybody's ready, as I said, and we can pull people in through harm reduction and then through to treatment.
We actually agree with the announcement in that, the lack of focus on treatment in supervised consumption sites can leave people trapped in the horrors of active addiction.
What's your substance of choice?
Some in the treatment space have mixed feelings and say safe consumption sites were part of keeping people alive long enough to eventually live without drugs.
We have clients in our live-in treatment programs as well as in our virtual programs who their life has been saved by the continuum of harm reduction services. We've had people who were regulars of supervised consumption sites who eventually were able to get to treatment, and they would not be with us if it wasn't for those sites.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
And Chris, we're nearing the end of the work week, and it's going to start feeling more like summer.
Yeah, we're back into the summer-like warmth. We just have to really get through tonight. By tomorrow, temperatures will kind of return back to more seasonable values. We were basically seeing temperatures in the high teens to the low 20s today for daytime highs, and pretty much universally across southern Ontario, the normal daytime high is closer to 25. Ottawa and Kingston, the cool areas on the map, 19 in both, 21 Toronto, 22 through Windsor, and it basically felt on par with these temperatures. The humidity wasn't a big factor. We still have that big spin of low pressure off towards our east that continued to control the weather across eastern Ontario. Across the GTA, we had a little wave of cloud move through, a couple of drops of rain to the north. Across southwestern Ontario, it was pretty much bright and sunny, but in all areas, we had this northerly wind to contend with, and we did feature wind gusts upwards of 40, 45 kilometers an hour today. But with high pressure slowly moving back in, the wind speeds will be reduced, so it's going to be less windy tomorrow, and it's going to be brighter in a lot of areas. Sunshine to mostly sunshine across the board, and even with a northerly wind, once again, daytime highs should climb a few degrees. It's still not going to feel that much more humid, though. It's not until Friday and into the weekend as high pressure drifts off towards the east, we get the return flow, the southwesterly winds, which will once again aid in boosting the highs and increasing the humidity values. And we're still not looking at the potential for active weather for the entire day on Thursday, for Friday. As we get into the weekend, we'll start to see a little bit more cloud move in, primarily just at daybreak, and maybe a couple of spotty showers across the Lake Huron shoreline, possibly up towards Georgian Bay as well. These would be very spotty, very light, very brief. For the rest of the day, we're back into a mix of sun and cloud to almost mostly sunshine, and then we start to see a little bit more cloud move in into Sunday. But once again, it doesn't really look like much in terms of active weather potential. And temperature-wise, starting off with those overnight lows, keep in mind, we had overnight lows last night in the mid to upper single digits away from the lakes. Closer to the lake shores themselves, just barely in the double digits. Very similar setup for tonight. Into the day tomorrow, we kind of rebound. Temperatures vary anywhere from the low to mid-20s. Mid-20s seems to be the average across the board. It's only going to feel about a degree or two higher when you factor in the humidity. As we get into Friday, lots of sunshine, highs around 26. Great way to wrap up the traditional work week and kickstart the traditional weekend. For Saturday, I have daytime highs around 28, probably still going to feel like 32. As we get into Sunday, we climb back up towards 28. Once again, at times will be mostly cloudy, a couple of hit or miss showers out there, but once again, nothing widespread, nothing heavy. And that's going to be the trend into Monday as well. Still looks dry, Kelda, with a high approaching 30 in the city, and it's probably going to feel like the mid-30s. Both Sunday as well as Monday. So we're not done with the summer-like warmth, at least not yet, but it's just a matter of time before Mother Nature starts to tighten her grip and make fall-like weather move back in. But we got a taste of it this morning. We're probably going to have a taste of it tomorrow morning, but things will rebound, don't you worry.
Yeah, a lot of people are happy to hear that. Thanks so much, Chris.
You got it.